We're going to go step by step through the VA one-time close loan. And you're going to know everywhere to go and how you can buy land and build your barn dough using your VA entitlement. The very first step I recommend is getting pre-approved. Getting pre-approved for the loan amount so that you know how much that you can budget for your entire project. Very important that when you're getting a VA one-time close loan or any type of construction loan, that you pick an experienced lender. So when you are shopping for lenders, not only do you want to ask if they offer that program, but ask how many loans have you as an individual loan officer closed of a one-time close loan. It's very important because even of those lenders who can do this, not all of them have the experience to get it done timely and effectively, which can cost you money and time, which in buying land can lose the deal. Getting pre-approved means that your lender is going to vet your credit, income, and assets. Those are the three parts of the loan process that you can control without a property in mind. When you get pre-approved, you're going to get pre-approved for a total loan amount. Total loan amount depends on a few things. If you're doing 0% down with the VA loan and trying to finance and everything, that loan amount is not only going to include the construction cost and the purchase of the land or the payoff if you already own it, but it's also going to include a 5% contingency. The contingency fund is the oh crap, things cost more fund that is based off of 5% of your construction costs, including any site prep. Site prep are things that may or may not be included in your builder's original plan to build the house, things like well, grading, etc. You need most site-built homes, that's your regular stick-built homes, take 9 to 12 months on construction. 12 months is the max for a one-time close loan on what the construction period can be. Specifically with the VA, during that period, you are not making any payments. That's a good thing because it keeps your out-of-pocket costs low. However, no money is ever free, and lenders will be financing your construction period payments in with your loan. You have your construction cost, your land purchase, your contingency fee, and construction period cost. Also, if it's structured correctly, you can roll in your closing costs. This is not on top of the appraisal, but if you have the entitlement, you qualify for the loan, and the home appraises, you can negotiate with your builder to pay your closing costs by increasing their cost. For example, they say their cost to construct is $300,000, closing costs are $10,000. They're going to take their total construction cost, move it up to $310,000, and they're going to pay $10,000 of your closing cost for you. Once you're pre-approved, it is important that we break out what your pre-approval is for. This is where research and this process is not as linear as anyone would like it to be. So, pre-approval, we're going to talk about approximates. At this point, we've put you on a research train. We're going to know approximately a range of what you might like to spend on land and what that gives your construction budget. I pre-approve you for a max construction budget based on a specific land amount. And then I take out all those other numbers so that you're not busting your pre-approval amount off the bat, because the loan amount is not the number that you want to tell a real estate agent to look for land or a builder to build you a house at. So we'll break down your construction costs. Here's the pre-approval loan amount. Here's what each of these line items can be. And I always recommend getting pre-approved with a little bit of buffer room so that you're not tightened up at the last minute if you want to make changes. Step 2 is going to be finding a builder. Now, the builder does have to get VA registered. They do not have to be approved with the VA, meaning that there's not a vetting process, but there is a list that they need to get on. If they're already registered, woohoo, they don't have to get registered again, and we just verify with their VA builder ID. However, if they're not, there's about 3 documents, and it takes less than 5 business days to send that out to the VA to get registered with the VA builder. However, the builder also has to get approved with the specific lender. Some lenders make builders get approved over and over and over again. Some lenders allow them to get approved one time with the specific lender and gives them the option to reuse with other clients. If you're working with a lender, ask if your builder is already approved. Ask if there's a list they can provide. Getting your builder approved with the lender is a critical step, and it is important to do this before going under contract on land, because it can take 3 days or it can take 3 months. Depends on how your builder is able to get documentation and their willingness to work with your lender and their team. The programs of a one-time close are typically a draw based on completion. So it's important that while you're researching builders, you understand what they like to work with as far as lending. Ask them, how many draws do you expect to get during this process? And at what point in the process do you want the first draw? Most builders would like an initial draw immediately after closing to get started. However, some lenders require work to be completed before a draw is given. How the draws with a one-time close loan work is that draws are typically given after a percentage of work are completed. You complete 10% of the work, you get a 10% draw, with the last draw holding out until the project is completely finished. Many lenders that will allow an initial draw to get started, and this process won't work for every builder, but it's important to know up front before you pay your builder deposits. Once you decide and fully vet, that is when you're going to want to get the documentation with the lender. They typically need to review their financials and reviews of clients to make sure that they are being fiscally responsible. If it is a very small builder, it may mean a credit check for them. After you get the builder approved, you're going to want to talk specific plans, getting your specific plans worked out and nailing down cost. Now, cost will probably be about 95% set in stone before you find land, because there are some things that will depend on the actual piece of land that you're getting. If you have to dig a well super far, or things can change. So get a very comfortable set piece of numbers for the builder. And then step 3 is going into purchasing land. That is where you are going and specifically taking your pre-approval and putting offers on land. You shouldn't do this before you've completed the other 2 steps, because it can put you in a situation where you are under contract, something that you can't get. Usually OTC loans, because you are closing one time on land and the construction draws prior to closing, that process is roughly 3 to 4 times the amount of paperwork, and you need to have all of that put together. You need to build the house out of paper before you close with all of the documentation. And that roughly takes 60 to 90 days at minimum. So that is longer than the standard purchase contract. So you want to make sure that you're going under contract and giving your team enough time to get this done without causing delays. Once you go under contract, next step is starting the loan process, which is ultimately another process in and of itself. First is going to be just registering you and going through that initial underwrite. That is going to be reviewing, again, your credit, income, and assets. There's typically a long amount of time between that pre-approval and that first step. So revamping all of that and getting it set up. At the same time, we're going to be working with the initial construction underwrite and getting all of the documents set to order the appraisal. I do not recommend ordering the appraisal prior to having the initial approval from the underwriter. The reason is save you time, save you money. Once we have everything from the builder and that initial approval, we'll move into ordering the appraisal. Appraisals, the standard turn time is 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks for a VA. Typically, it doesn't go longer than that, but if they do, they're required to let us know and give us feedback as to why. Sometimes it's a huge property out in the land and it's a little harder to do. Once we have the appraisal back, then we are getting a reconfirmation of all of the loan numbers and making sure that there are no adjustments to the numbers for your loan. No adjustments to the construction cost, and that the budget is set in stone and that we can move towards final underwriting. There are 2 stages of final underwriting. There's final credit underwriting and final construction underwriting. Final construction underwriting has to be complete before the final credit underwriting. So that is going to be heavily dependent on your builder getting all of the docs, signing all of the paperwork on time. Once they have completed perk test, builder certifications, guarantees in place, and anything else that is required by the lender prior to close, then we will have everything. It's not uncommon to ask for additional pay stubs and additional information and send in for final credit underwriting. Final credit underwriting, and then you get your clear to close. And that means you get to close, which is super, super exciting. After you're clear to close, your scheduled closing, it's usually going to be at least 3 business days after you're clear to close that you're actually signing the paperwork. Once you sign the paperwork, then you are closed. Yay! You're not done there. That is when the construction begins. After closing, your builder is clear to start on their construction draw schedule. Once they complete everything and you sign off on the final draw, that is when you get a first payment letter and the keys to your new home. I'm your mortgage advocate, Alyssa, and I'm a loan advisor who specializes in VA OTC loans to make sure that you are getting the right information along every step of this project.